When it comes to Air Max 90s, it's all about the tiny little details and the tiny little choices that they make when they're designing the shoe. Tiny little things. It can be just one word in the wrong color and the whole thing falls apart. Or it can be all tied together beautifully by one little choice right up on, say, the lacing system that ties the entire shoe together, and it's a massive yes. And today's shoe is a perfect example of that. There's one detail on this shoe, just one, that caught my eye and said, you know what, that's a shoe that I need to talk about. That's a shoe that I need to bring to the channel. It's the 30th anniversary year of the Air Max 90s. They have dropped a lot of Air Maxes throughout the year, not just 90s, but ones in particular are having a big year as well. But of course the 90s and then the 25th anniversary of the 95s too. So there's a bunch of Air Max work going on out there, a ton of colorways, some in that classic sort of tri-color theme that the standard look, the standard silhouette that you get with Air Max 90s, but others collaborations, unique twists, premium materials, all that kind of stuff. And it all boils down, it comes down to that, the choices that they make in the tiny little places is whether or not an Air Max 90 flies or not. This shoe today flies, and it flies real far and real high. And I'm going to tell you all about why that is and the choices that they made, especially that one choice that led me to here today, to now, to bring you this shoe. So let's get into this and have an upcoming look at the Nike Air Max 90 Laser Blue. This is the Tokyo Bada 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Bada 23 Sneaker Channel. It's my name, my name to me to get a sign every single day from Tokyo, Japan. I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And like I was saying at the top of this video, we're talking about an Air Max 90 and its 30th anniversary year, which means some premium shoes, which means some absolute monster collaborations. It means some classic silhouettes and colorways coming back to us from the past, but it also means some weird and wonderful collaborations that are way out there. Ruhan Wang, I think, Korean artist, brought out a pair very recently that are just an absolutely wild pair of shoes. Very Air Max 90 in its silhouette, but very different in its colorway. And that's what we're talking about this year. That's what you get with the 30th anniversary year. And to be honest, compared to last year's 30th anniversary year of the Air Jordan 4s, I think the Air Max 90s are doing a much better job. There wasn't much last year that I had, chills up my spine, goosebumps about, but there's plenty in the Air Max 90 line this year that gets me going. And this shoe today is exactly that. It's your classic Air Max 90. I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I'm not seeing premium materials. I'm looking at it, I'm not seeing collaboration. I'm not seeing any unusual steps in the silhouette or the colorway. But what I am seeing is the classic Air Max 90 style, true to form, and that one little detail on there that I think elevates it just a little bit above the rest of the Air Max 90 line. So let's get into all that today and get into those choices that work really nicely on this shoe, and the details that they got spot on, they got just right when we talk about the Air Max 90. So first things first, let's look at the lateral side of this guy and say that this is not an undefeated shoe. Pardon? Well, what I'm talking about is this right here. As soon as I saw this shoe, my first instinct was to compare it to the Undefeated line. And the Undefeated brought out a bunch of Air Max 90 collaborations, I think late last year and also into the first part of this year. And this was one of a pack of, I think, 4 that came out. And there was a flipped version of this in black as well. But you can see there are some similarities to today's shoe. Pop, there we bring it back, and you've got that base of white on there that holds the whole shoe together, and then that big air unit down the bottom. And then if we go back to the Undefeateds, you can see the similarities between those two. But then there are some differences with the Undefeateds. Of course, the main thing is back on the heel there with the branding, and we'll get into the branding on today's shoe in a couple of seconds time. But also that extra line that runs through the sort of horizontal front to back of the shoe on the Undefeateds, which you don't see on today's shoe. And then today's shoe with that big gouge of black on the side, which definitely sort of makes it look a lot different to the Undefeated. So but to me, there's a tie-up. There's a little sort of echo of that Undefeated white and blue version, and then you come forward to today's shoe, and you've still got the white and blue, but you add grey and black in there as well. Let's talk about drop dates before we get into the shoe as well. October the 1st or June the something. I was really surprised to see that this shoe already dropped in the EU, apparently in Europe about 2 months ago. I don't know if that's true. I know that's what it says, but I don't know if it actually happened. And it'd be great to hear from people in the comments down below if this shoe is already on the shelves in Europe. But it says in the US it's dropping on October the 2nd. Now, I don't know why they'd have different drop dates, especially with an American shoe. Effectively, the Air Max Nike line is an American shoe, whereas like Adidas, for example, is a German European shoe. So you could imagine an Adidas dropping first in Europe and then elsewhere worldwide. But for some reason, this Nike Air Max 90 is doing that. I'm guessing it's maybe something to do with coronavirus, but I really don't know. So if you do know all about that, again, let us all know in the comments down below so that we can learn a little bit more about these shoes. But what we're talking about is the October the 2nd drop date for the US. And like I say, if they've already dropped in Europe and the European people out there watching can tell us for sure, that'd be great to know. So looking at the shoe, I'm going to go with the top of the thing that I talked about first, and the thing that's in the title of this video, the one thing that drew me into this shoe. There's a lot of little details, like I said at the top of this video. It's the details that make the difference on Air Max 90s. I'm going to show you the ones that absolutely work on this shoe. And there's 3 particular places that I really want to look at that. But the one thing that really drew me into the shoe was this right here, and that's the swoosh, because the rest of the shoe seems to be pretty simple, but the swoosh seems to have that roughed up kind of hairy suede feel to it. Now, I don't know if it's actually made of suede, but to me that's a suede swoosh, and it really stands out because it's on a very standard material side of things on an Air Max 90. So from that swoosh we'll go forward and get to the toe box, and you can see it's the classic mesh toe box. There's no leather in sight on there, but that's just standard. I don't want to say low quality because it's not low quality, but it's not premium, so less than premium toe box on the Air Max 90. You've got that that mesh that's going on there, and we'll go back up past the swoosh again to the top line where you'll see the mesh up around the collar of this guy as well. But then if we drop down past the swoosh, and hopefully all this is working out on the green screen here and I'm not making a fool of myself and the video is not tracking behind me properly, but if we come down past the swoosh you get to that chunk of black that I talked about on there, which is kind of hinting at patent leather, but I know it isn't. It's just shiny glossy leather, but it isn't actually patent leather. But again, it's kind of standard for an Air Max 90. It's not suede or it's not tumbled leather, for example, or any premium material that you want to see there. So the standard materials that all wrap around the outside of that swoosh just help to accentuate the quality that's in the swoosh itself, and that roughed up hairy suede feel that you get in a light grey swoosh as well, which stands out as well on what is a white, blue and black shoe. So it gives you that point of sort of focus for the shoe, and that's the kind of decision that I'm talking about, the choices that they make when they're making Air Max 90s, and the ones that work and the ones that don't. In the case of A, the colour of the swoosh, and B, the materials they used, definitely those are 2 great choices for this shoe. And then if we go up from that, another place where you get these great choices, I'm going to just stop on the lacing system and show you the eyelets on either side. Basically there's 3 sets of eyelets on an Air Max 90. There's the top set that are in rubber cased, and then there's sort of the middle set which are standard eyelets, and then the lower rubber case set as well. And that's where the colouring comes in. Now, it might not look like much to you, but it actually, to me, is much, and especially if we flip back to those undefeateds, you can see that they went with an all-white vibe on this shoe. White swoosh, white upper, white midfoot, white lacing system, white eyelets top and bottom of that lacing system with the rubber paneling on there. And then if we come back to today's shoe, you can see what definition it gives to have 2 different colours and also different colours to the base of the shoe. So instead of going with white, what they've gone for is light blue in the lower part, or laser blue in the lower part, and then black in the higher part, and that's split by that sort of white section up the middle, and it's on top of that grey swoosh. Yes. It's an excellent series of choices on the side of the shoe to give it the definition and colour without overloading it and making it too complicated. And then my favourite choice that they made in the shoe is if we pan back a little bit and get to the window. It's a classic kind of window, a signature of the Air Max line to have this window on the side. And you can see in the case of this one, and I'm actually a yes on this. Sometimes I like it when they don't do this, but I like it in the case of this shoe where they've gone with the lettering and the background in the same colour. Now, I think I'm right in saying the camos, the duck camos, I think there's 4 of them now. The original ones had red on red, I think it was in there, or was it black on black? But then the later ones went with contrast on there, and that's a good shoe to look at to see where the contrast comes in between the lettering and the background. But instead of that, on this one, what they've gone is with the blue lettering, the laser blue lettering on the laser blue background. And I actually think it works, and I'm glad they didn't go with the definition there. And the way to look at that and to see what what I'm talking about is to go around to the heel where you can see that definition with the black lettering on the blue heel branding unit on the back there, and you can see what that would have looked like. And then if we go back to the lateral and again look at that window and imagine what it would have looked like with black lettering, I think you might agree with me that it would have been just a bit too much within that black glossy leather to have a blue window with black writing on it. So again, small choices both in the heel as far as putting the black lettering on and in that window on the lateral side, and not putting the black lettering on. It's a double yes as far as I'm concerned. And then we'll just dip down into the midsole before we go back up high, because there's one thing to look up high, but the white midsole and the blue air unit that's in there again is a good choice. Sometimes they go with all white, for example. I think black would have been too much black on the shoe, grey wouldn't have been enough, so again it's a great choice to have the blue on there, and then the white is simple enough to mean that the whole midsole section isn't overloading the shoe. And then the same for the outsole, a two-tone laser blue and black outsole, again, which just tops off the bottom half of the shoe really nicely. And then the final thing we want to look at is the top of the shoe, where we go and have a look at the tongues, and you can see the tongues on there have that blue lettering on the white tongue, and then if we take that backwards and look on the inside, you can see the white lettering on the blue insole in direct contrast to that. So they are the polar opposites of each other, and again, it's a big yes for me. This is a very simple Air Max 90 shoe. Let's look at the whole thing. Total shoe. It's a very simple shoe. Your standard colorway, your standard materials, basically, but maybe not that swoosh on the side. There's no extra, playing around with, for example, the Undefeated on the back. They have the special branding on the back of the Undefeated ones, which looks great on those shoes. But this is just your bog standard Air Max 90 silhouette, Air Max 90 colorway, but it's absolutely perfect. It's exactly what you want to see in an Air Max 90, and all of those little choices come together, and the sum of those choices is a really nice shoe. For now though, it's time for me to thank you guys for checking out the content. I hope you appreciate this video about the Air Max 90. It's been a while since I've done an Air Max of any kind. Air Max 1s I think were the last, maybe 95s were the last I looked at. So I hope you appreciate the content. Let me know in the comments down below anything you can to help us all learn a bit more about the shoe. But for now, it's time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out the content, and I'll do what I do at the end of every single video, which is remind you I do this every single day. So you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.